and a pleasure to be with all you beautiful human beings today. We applied for permits many times, but as soon as they heard my name, we were denied. They gave the anti-mosque people permits, they gave the pro-mosque people permits. But something that's legitimate, something that questions the reality, the truth of 9/11, something that breaks paradigm shifts and brings people together and not divide and conquers like the mosque issue, was ignored and censored. But we stood together as one with our voices, screaming in the streets, reaching out more people than any pin that they could put us in. We're not animals. We will never be pinned in with those, what are they called? Freedom cages. We don't believe in no freedom cages. And I want to thank everybody from the bottom of my heart for being out here. You are brave, amazing, beautiful human beings. Today, we have a press conference with Richard Gage, who's going to give us some amazing news. But today also, we are doing a charity event at 56 Walker, about 8 blocks up from here, right by Canal. We are doing events starting now till 5, and then from 5 all the way later on. You should definitely come later on. Wink, wink. $20 our ticket, and a pleasure to be with all you beautiful human beings today. We applied for permits many times, but as soon as they heard my name, we were denied. They gave the anti-mosque people permits, they gave the pro-mosque people permits. But something that's legitimate, something that questions the reality, the truth of 9/11, something that breaks paradigm shifts and brings people together and not divide and conquers like the mosque issue, was ignored and censored. But we stood together as one with our voices, screaming in the streets, reaching out more people than any pin that they could put us in. We're not animals. We will never be pinned in with those, what are they called? Freedom cages. We don't believe in no freedom cages. And I want to thank everybody from the bottom of my heart for being out here. You are brave, amazing, beautiful human beings. Today, we have a press conference with Richard Gage, who's going to give us some amazing news. But today also, we are doing a charity event at 56 Walker, about 8 blocks up from here, right by Canal. We are doing events starting now till 5, and then from 5 all the way later on. You should definitely come later on. Wink, wink. $20 our ticket. Richard Gage and Manny Badillo. Move back.
So we'll start the press conference now. Manny Badillo of NYC Can, New York Coalition for Accountability Now, and We Are Change.
All right. Okay, I want to thank everybody for coming here today. Today is the 9th anniversary of my uncle's murder. Today's the 9th anniversary of the beginning of the government cover-up into the events and details of my uncle's murder. And today is yet another day where we the people peaceably assemble and petition the government for a redress.
Yeah.
What we have today is we are surrounded by people that have a thorough understanding of the details of the events of my uncle's murder and 3,000 others only a few hundred feet away. Okay? When those buildings were taken down years ago, there was a hole that was left in the ground. As you can see now, there is still a hole left in the ground, with the exception of one area. The area where we're standing right now. Where we're standing right now is in the footprint of Building 7. Building what? .org. Building what? Building 7. .org.
Smoking gun.
We're standing in the footprint of Building 7, a 47-story skyscraper that came down at free fall speed symmetrically into its own footprint at 5:30 in the afternoon 9 years ago today. The 9/11 omission report stated one sentence about that building. Now, today I asked Janet Napolitano if the Department of Homeland Security is ever going to look into what happened to Building 7. And she replied that that would be something that the New York City government could do. Well, guess what? We've started that already. New York City Coalition for Accountability Now, after collecting 80,000 signatures from New York City voters and handing them into the city clerk and having them rejected at the highest level, the state Supreme Court, because the New York City Law Department felt it wasn't a proper subject to be placed in front of the voters when all we were asking for was the ability to vote yes or no to a comprehensive and fact-driven investigation. We began the Building What campaign. It started at the local level in New Hampshire. That's how change begins. That's why we are change. That's why we're here locally, where the murders took place, the unsolved crime. In New Hampshire, there was a town that voted to have their own investigation. Well, we knew that we had to inform the rest of the world, most especially this city, about the 47-story skyscraper that came down at 5:30 in the afternoon. So we started an email and fax and call-in campaign to the city council. All 51 council members were called within a 2.5-week period, emailed, faxed. We've set up 20 different meetings so far. And yet the city council still is not moving on this. I met a city council member today, Councilman Hellerman, down at the same area at the makeshift memorial, at the little wooden round pool that they make family members throw flowers into. And they call that the memorial. Now there's the memorial store up the block where you can buy things. But I really feel that there should be discussions, not about the community center, but about this building where we're standing right now, about the building that has still yet to be built, a proper memorial. Yeah. Well, what happens is that Councilman Hellerman wouldn't answer the question when asked, what do you think about Building 7? Janet Napolitano wouldn't answer the question when asked about Building 7. Well, 1,200 architects and engineers are answering that question. They're demanding a proper investigation. So there are campaigns on many levels. There is a campaign to put out a television ad given by family members who know that the community center issue is a complete distraction and takes us away from speaking about the important issues, such as the first responders and the fact that we need a memorial. BuildingWhat.org. You can go to that website and see the 30-second commercial that will be seen by millions of New Yorkers. Millions of New Yorkers will know that family members want a proper and comprehensive investigation. Because guess what? The truth saves countless lives.
Yes, the truth does set you free.
Yes, the truth, once we get to it, and we will, because citizens throughout the world, and most importantly, the brave souls that surround me right now, have looked into where the evidence points to. They look to where the facts stand. And we know that we've been lied to. And at the very least, the government has been covering up the facts. The truth of 9/11 saves the first responders and rescuers' lives, saves the residents' lives. We need to get to that point. There can be no justice without truth. I ask everyone here today to support BuildingWhat.org, to support NYC Can, to support We Are Change, to support architects and engineers, because we're doing the right thing.
Yes.
And we are making history here today. Tonight, there will be 2 beams of light in the sky that the city is going to put up. But everybody needs to look into this night sky, because we are putting together a proper memorial that gives to us the truth of what happened 9 years ago today. I do this for my family. I do this for my Uncle Tom. I do this for all the victims that died 9 years ago today, and the victims that have died since, the 900 plus first responders, and the tens of thousands that will die in the future because they've been lied to. We do this to support them. We do this to support the truth. We know that truth, justice, and accountability is going to bring peace in our day, and it will save countless lives. I will now introduce the head of the architects and the engineers group of 1,200 architects and engineers from all around the country. This gentleman, A1A, member of the American Institute of Architects, licensed architect for 22 years, founder of the nonprofit organization Architects and Engineers for 911truth, ladies and gentlemen, Richard Gage.
Thank you, Manny. God bless you. I'm not going to let that happen to my voice. I'm honored to have been asked to speak to you today by the 9/11 victims' family members.
Yeah!
The architects and engineers for 9/11truth now number 1,280 petition signers. Collectively, we have more than 25,000 years of combined building and technical experience. If 1,000 architects were to tell you that your home was in danger of collapsing, would you at least listen?
Absolutely.
Do you want to know the truth?
Hell yeah.
Yes! Please listen to us. We have an extremely important message to deliver to you today. And it is not about the Islamic Cultural Center, a red herring fed to the media to keep New Yorkers emotionally occupied, while the crime of the century, the explosive demolition of the 3 World Trade Center skyscrapers, goes largely unquestioned. Today we're here to inform you that we've uncovered evidence that the official investigations into what happened to the World Trade Center skyscrapers on 9/11 were deeply flawed, or worse. The scientific forensic facts we have discovered have troubling implications. But let's begin with the facts. A technologically highly advanced energetic material has been discovered in the World Trade Center dust from the 9/11 catastrophe. This follows the discovery by the United States Geological Survey and others of high concentrations of unusual, previously molten, iron-rich microspheres in the World Trade Center dust. These microspheres can only have been formed during the destruction of the World Trade Center at temperatures far higher than can be explained by jet fuel and office fires.
All right, listen up!
Those fires, we are told by engineers employed by NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology, were allegedly the cause of the World Trade Center's destruction. The discovery of this advanced energetic material in the form of red-gray chips distributed throughout the dust both explains the iron-rich microspheres and confirms the inadequacy of the official account of what happened that tragic day. Even before the microspheres and red-gray chips had been identified and brought to our attention, we were deeply concerned about the other aspects of the destruction of these iconic buildings and how they were investigated. More than 24 firefighters, engineers, and other witnesses reported seeing substantial quantities of molten iron or steel flowing like lava, they said, in the debris under all 3 World Trade Center high-rises. Office fires and jet fuel cannot possibly reach the temperatures necessary to liquefy iron or steel. A mixture called thermite, though, can, consisting of pulverized iron oxide and aluminum, and it generates temperatures over 4,000 degrees, far more than is needed to melt iron or steel, which melts at about 2,700 degrees. Next, the energetic material that was found in the World Trade Center dust by an international team of scientists led by Niels Harrod of the University of Copenhagen in Denmark was reported in the peer-reviewed Open Journal of Chemical Physics. Niels Harrod is with us today. Say hi, Niels. He'll be speaking at the conference tonight on his discoveries and the discovery of the international team. Now, this material consists of nano-engineered iron oxide and aluminum particles, 1/1000th the size of a human hair, embedded in another substance consisting of carbon, oxygen, and silicon. The sizes of the iron oxide particles are extremely uniform, and neither they nor the ultra-fine grain aluminum platelets could possibly have been created by a natural process such as a gravitational collapse or impacts of jetliners. The red gray chips in which these particles were found exhibit the same characteristics as advanced energetic materials developed in U.S. national laboratories in the years leading up to 9/11. They have no reason to be in the World Trade Center dust, given all the horrific costs in human lives, loss of civil liberties, and trillions of tax dollars spent in response to the official account of 9/11. There can be no more urgent need than for our country and the world to find out who put those materials in the World Trade Center and why. Now, this need makes it all the more disturbing that top engineers in charge of the government's investigation would avoid dealing straightforwardly with all the evidence that AE911truth and others have repeatedly brought to their attention, much of which has been available in the public record since the beginning. John Gross, NIST co-project leader, has denied the existence of, or even any reports of, molten iron or steel in the World Trade Center. They stopped their analysis of the tower's complete and highly energetic destruction at the very point when that destruction began. And they have dismissed or avoided serious analysis of the additional evidence with which we are concerned, such as the fact that both twin towers were completely dismembered and destroyed in just 10 to 14 seconds, which occurs at nearly free-fall acceleration. For this to happen, all 47 of their massive core columns, as well as a large fraction of their external columns, would have to be compromised with explosives beforehand. Next, more than 100 first responders reported hearing explosions and seeing flashes of light at the onset of the destruction of the towers. Light flashes clearly indicate explosive detonations. Next, these recordings were obtained, by the way, from New York City Fire Commissioner recorded oral histories by the New York Times in August of 2005. Next, multi-ton steel perimeter wall sections were ejected laterally at 60 miles per hour to a distance of 600 feet. That speed and distance indicates that a high-pressure explosion wave initiated those ejections. Next, 90,000 tons of concrete and metal decking were pulverized in midair, again indicating explosions. And I mean pulverized to a fine powder. Next, World Trade Center 7, whose replacement we stand in the shadow of, a 47-story building, high-rise, which was not hit by any airplane, came down in pure free-fall acceleration for more than 100 feet. A significant fact that NIST's Sham Sunder was forced to admit after being presented with the research of members of AE911truth. Yet, NIST has failed to acknowledge the obvious implications of this fact, which is that the columns must have been explosively removed and severed within fractions of a second of each other. The complete destruction and dismemberment of Building 7, collapsing in just 6.5 seconds, again, in this case, at pure free-fall acceleration, through the path of what was the greatest resistance. And symmetrically, this is an occurrence only possible with expertly pre-placed explosives. These falsehoods and omissions in the NIST report include: 1. NIST overstated the severity and duration of the fires in all three skyscrapers, apparently in order to make more credible to attribute the destruction to fires, yet without exaggerating them enough to account for all the molten iron and steel. 2. NIST and FEMA did not follow the National Fire Protection Association standard procedures for fire and explosion investigations and or test the debris for explosive residue. 3. NIST did not test for explosives when explosive demolition was the most likely hypothesis, given that all high-rises that have come down before have been destroyed by explosive controlled demolitions, and none of them have been destroyed by fire. 4. This animated computer model of Building 7's destruction, showing the outer walls crumpling inward like a piece of foil, bears no resemblance to the actual collapse as seen in the video. Next, NIST claims that the falling section of each of the twin towers above the jetliner impact zones crushed the much larger and more massive intact lower section. But video analysis reveals clearly that the upper sections actually disintegrated in waves of explosions prior to any of the crushing of the lower sections. This indicates that the top sections could not have been the cause of the destruction of the lower sections. 6. This technical analysis into the tower's collapse stops at the initiation of collapse. There is no technical analysis of the structural behavior of the building during the collapse itself. In response to our request for correction on this matter, NIST acknowledged that they were unable to provide a full explanation of the total collapse. In short, NIST's official technical explanation is fraudulent and impossible under the basic laws of physics. By contrast, the provable scientific hypothesis of explosive controlled demolition is consistent with all of the available technical forensic evidence. So at this point, the architects and engineers for 911truth are calling for Attorney General Eric Holder to empower a federal grand jury to investigate those responsible for NIST, including lead investigator Sham Sender and co-project leader John Gross. We'd like any and all reporters who will be covering this story to know that the architects and engineers for 911truth are here to help you in any way possible. In order to break the story of the crime of the century, we'll give you the credit for our hard work. Just get the story out. You will not be alone. In fact, our press conference on Thursday at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. on this subject was also being held concurrently in 65 cities throughout the world, including 30 states and 4 countries, by our AE911truth petition signers. And this on the heels of having personally delivered this evidence in the form of letters, brochures, DVD, and our new newspaper, the 9/11 Investigator. It's being handed out now. Be sure to get your copy today for free. We are doing something, we're doing everything that we can to wake up the sleeping and to poke those who would keep them that way. And to that end, tonight, we shine a light on the still officially unexplained free-fall collapse of World Trade Center Building 7, which is the key to justice for the family members who have lost loved ones in the Twin Towers. So look into the New York City's evening skyline tonight at 9:11 p.m.
Yes.
And ask yourself this question: what can I do to shine a light on truth and justice for the family members and the first responders. I'd like to thank the thousands of scientists, senior level members of the military, intelligence and other government officials, pilots and aviation professionals, firefighters, scholars and university professionals whose work is the foundation of our efforts and who support us so much. We'd like to also announce the formation of three new 9/11 Truth groups simultaneously in New York and Los Angeles at press conferences. First, military officers and officials for 9/11 Truth. Bravo! Next. Actors and artists for 9/11 Truth.
Yeah!
And globally, scientists for 9/11 Truth.
And volunteers for 9/11 Truth.
Lawyers for 9/11 Truth.
No journalists for 9/11.
Veterans for 9/11 Truth.
I don't think there's any journalists.
We also want to thank the growing family
Here's a journalist.
of more than 300 sustaining financial supporters of architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth. We could not do this critical work without you. Now we'll answer any questions that you might have, and also, though, more detailed information is available on our website and in our DVD, 9/11 Blueprint for Truth, The Architecture of Destruction, which is available on our website, AE911truth.org. Information packets are available here for qualified members of the press. Come and see us. Are there any questions today?
I got one. How many angels are protecting you?
All of us.
We have lots of angels protecting everybody who speaks the truth, because angels do that for a living.
Richard, I understand Building 7 was brought down to some kind of flaw in the engineering design. Has there been any special directives, emergency bulletins issued to engineering schools around the country to avoid the same kind of flaw? And will the term thermal expansion appear in any textbooks in the near future?
Unlikely to both questions. We have very serious problems in all or many or most of our skyscrapers across the world today if Building 7, through thermal expansion of long-span beams, can drop that building in 6.5 seconds. There's been no code changes since 9/11/2001 that addressed the free fall collapse of skyscrapers due to thermal expansion. It's a big problem.
What's your message to our skeptics?
Over here, what's your message to the skeptics? Well, for those of you who have a hard time understanding the 9/11 Truth message that's spoken by virtually all of these people here, I say, take courage and look at the evidence. They stop calling us names as soon as they start looking at the evidence.
Right.
And I encourage you to do that too.
How do you suppose the thermite and nanothermite was applied to the building?
Could you repeat the question?
How do you suppose that thermite and or nanothermite was applied to these buildings? Well, we know in the case of the Twin Towers that the elevator cores run simultaneously next to the core columns and beams in those buildings. If one had access to those elevator cores, they'd have access to plant explosives throughout the columns and beams and the core of that building. In fact, if they had an excuse, something like an elevator modernization, they would not be seen by the tens of thousands of occupants. And indeed, we did have such an elevator modernization 9 months prior to 9/11. So we're also asking for an investigation of Ace Elevator, who had that contract, and the security company, Stratosec Securicom, who was guarding that elevator hoistway. What about the nanothermite? Nanothermite is a highly... Nanothermite is a highly energetic material which is fallen with all of the World Trade Center dust in small chips, unignited. It appears to be in these chips.